guys are here. This is going to be a fun weekend. Really fun weekend. You have no idea how much we've been looking forward to this. It's a really interesting thing when you decide to put on a seminar. You're like, why do I want to put myself through that again? And then you think, but wait, Bob Brooks said he'll come speak? Wait, Ian Bulow is willing to come share? Wait, Sean Dill? Lamantia? Deutsch? How are all these people willing to come be part of this? They see something in what we're doing, just like I see what they're doing, and it's really beautiful when you start to feel that unison, that unity, that focus that's going in the same direction. So I'm so excited to learn this weekend. Of course, there's going to be things I hope to add into your learning process, but I'm here as a student always, like you said, Gary, always learning. And so for you guys to come and be part of the learning process, I just really appreciate that from the sake of your patients. On behalf of your patients, thank you. Thank you very, very much. You may not even realize that's who I think about with every single word I share with you, with every single bit of effort we put towards this. Your patients deserve better. Mine deserve better than what I'm giving them right now. I can get better. I just can always get better. Now, are they getting good results? Sure. But can I get better? Absolutely. And so that's really the main focus behind Symposium, is how can we learn from one another to get better? So keep very, very open minds this weekend. We are designing this program to challenge you on purpose. But having said that, it's not that our profession is really lacking in its ability to produce change. I mean, we have a beautiful profession. You know, when Dr. Kelsey was mentioning about the history in my family with chiropractic, it is interesting because I never had a pediatrician. Never got vaccinated. I didn't understand people take drugs. Really? When I went to chiropractic school, I didn't go to be a chiropractor. I went to play soccer. Because chiropractic was just a normal part of life. I wasn't honestly that inspired by it. It was all I knew. So it was kind of just my standard of living. I went to school to play soccer and was having an issue with my knee. And a team chiropractor adjusted my posterior tibia. And my knee problems resolved. 6 months of agony was gone in 2 days. So I decided, hey, I should go into chiropractic because of a stupid knee adjustment. That's why I stand before you, is because chiropractic works even when we're talking about the full body. But then once you're inside school and you start looking at it and saying, well, what kind of care are we giving to patients? And you start to see people have different goals. And actually the biggest thing that kind of concerned me was there wasn't really an end game in care. Everyone was talking about the magic of the adjustment. And I was like, okay, but if you have to keep having magic reintroduced all the time, why? I mean, people did live before chiropractic, maybe not as healthy, but they did live. And I started thinking, well, can chiropractic intervene at higher levels? Maybe more corrective, maybe better stability. Can we fix people better, that maybe they'll hold longer, and maybe the real magic starts to show? Maybe the miracles really start to happen when people hold. And then the school, I would watch the curriculum, and you guys are going through it as students, you just hear about adjustments. Not corrections. You hear about people coming in for care, but not holding. And at some point you start to think, this is what I always do with the students. I say, hey students, how many of you are getting your spines checked regularly? And you'll see that a lot of the hands go up. And I'll say, how many of you are paying for your adjustments out of your pocket? And all the hands drop. And I say, you do realize, once you graduate, you're going to ask the public to pay for ongoing care when you yourself have never done it. Do you know what a hypocritical thought that's going to be for you to make that transition? Because they don't understand the real value, the sacrifice the patient has to make to match the sacrifice of intent you're investing in them. And the students don't get that. And they're shocked when they graduate, and now they're in practice and trying to convince other people to do something they have never yet done. It's a difficult transition. But I realized the value of the adjustment was being lost. How valuable is the care that we're rendering? We think it's priceless. We think people should never be complaining about the price we charge. And yet, what is the real value to that person? And it cannot just be intention. If it was intention, all chiropractors would produce the same results. There has to be more than just intention. There has to be competency, a level of specificity, precision of care. I mean, why does a line of drive matter? Why does understanding biomechanics matter? Why is looking at patients' genetics or updating imaging into cone beam, why does any of this matter if it's just intention? The other issue we ran into a little bit was in discussing innate. Now, you're going to find in this group, we sometimes make statements that the profession doesn't like. For example, I always make this statement, I'm not a healer. I'm not the healer. Now, in reality, is there interactive energy, and does the patient benefit from me? Sure. But when it comes down to who's doing the healing, that's innate. Innate's the healer. The universal intelligence inside the body, that's what heals people. My job is not to control that and not to create that. It's to release that. Austin, glad you made it. It's to release that. By the way, that's somebody who is not yet into chiropractic school. He's a student taking the prereqs to go into chiropractic school who showed up. So please love on him. And he had a stomach bug today and almost bailed. Waiting to come tomorrow. That's right, Dr. Bulow. So, but the whole point being is, if innate is the healer, and if you don't, in this room, if you don't understand that, or if that doesn't resonate with you yet, please keep visiting and watching the testimonies and realizing the power of innate, because if you can respect that power, then you'll realize your role in being an expert in being specific to release that power. But it's the power that made the body that heals the body. Okay? So when you hear us talking about that, we say, innate's the healer. But my job is to be technically precise in correcting subluxation and removing that interference to allow innate to do the healing. That philosophy is embedded in every single thing we do. So we do talk about, can we control these mechanical factors? Can we reposition things accurately? What's our responsibility to be accountable for our results? Ultimately, we have to be accountable to something. Because if a chiropractor can adjust a student at Sherman College, this happened in the last year, and the student strokes out and ended up in the hospital. Did innate mess up that time? Did innate forget how to heal that person? Oh, was this retracing? Was it? You just got to be really careful that we don't just automatically dump everything onto innate like it's got everything. It's got all the responsibilities for doing everything. We actually have a role too. We're supposed to be experts with subluxation care. By the way, we're supposed to be the only people who are experts at subluxation-based care. So what's the big frustration most of us have right now? Well, the physical therapists are now doing spinal manipulation. Massage therapists are starting to do some spinal manipulation. Osteopaths, ironically, aren't really doing it much anymore. But remember what the whole deal was with the AMA. They were going to, was it 1974? The containment and elimination of chiropractic was in the minutes of their annual meeting, something to that effect. How are they going to contain us? Squeeze us from a wellness profession that helped deafness, or asthma, or Hodgkin's. Squeeze us from health and wellness down into pain syndromes, and let's isolate it to neck and back pain, maybe headaches. Squeeze us into that little box that's what chiropractors are for. Neck pain, back pain, and headaches. Once we squeeze them into that box, then we'll train other people who also treat inside that box to do manipulation also. So now you have the physios, the massage therapists, and other people starting to do spinal manipulation, and so now the public's confused. If I need to get my spine adjusted, well, my physical therapist can do it for pain relief also. So can my massage therapist, so can whoever else. And even though we start to say, well, that's outside their scope, well, who decides that? So ultimately we have to come back to, as chiropractors, where is our unique brand value? We have a single identity, and if we lose that identity, we lose our profession. So where is our unique value? It is in one thing only. We have to be the subluxation correcting, not adjusting, correcting doctors. We have to be the specialists, the only ones that can find and fix subluxation at the highest levels. Not doing just manipulations, but actually fixing the nerve interference. So as a profession, what's really interesting is, across the board we have such variations with how people practice. With, chiropractors doing crystals. And some people, the other day, somebody had said, well, I have to remove energy out of your liver for innate to express its fullness. And I was like, that's a different type of subluxation care. I don't quite understand. But my point is, chiropractors have a lot of diversity with how they perceive how to remove interference. And I'm not somebody who's supposed to be up here saying who's right and who's wrong. I hope you actually never hear that out of anybody practicing or standing up on behalf of Epic. Because we're all here learning to find truth. We're all seeking truth. So it's a very difficult sensitivity to hold to a standard and yet not try to find wrong in other people. It's a very touchy thing. So in our profession, when we start looking at what does the public think of our profession, there was a study that came out. It was published in 2017. I don't know if you can read this from back there, but it was done by non-chiropractic researchers from Australia, Germany, and Sweden. Have you guys heard of the ADAMS study before? Data was analyzed from a U.S. National Health Interview Survey in 2012. 42,000 households were surveyed. 80% participated. How many of you guys walk into the mall or walk down and somebody says, oh, can you do a survey? You're like, no. They call your house. Hey, will you do a survey? No. I mean, we don't usually like doing surveys. 80% of households participated in a survey because the survey was about chiropractic. That alone is pretty intriguing. 24% of households reported they've used chiropractic. 8.4% in the last year. So let's stop there for a second. So 24% of people have tried chiropractic, but only a third of them have gone in the last year. Students, sometimes you're going to have practice management consultants that want to get you to hire them as your consultant. One of the things I'll talk about is recruiting new patients, bring in new patients. What this kind of shows is that we have, out of all the new patients that came in, only a third of them still stuck with chiropractic over the last year. So don't just be a funnel of lots of people coming in and everyone leaving. If that's happening, check your quality of care and your educational processes, because something's glitching people. They don't quite understand chiropractic in its fullness like they should. And they understand it through intellect as well as what they're experiencing. More from what they're experiencing. So always check your quality of care if you're losing a bunch of new patients. The chiropractic services that most people sought out, they had back pain and neck pain, and they went for chiropractic care. Once again, we got put into a box. So most people 63% went for back pain, 30% went for neck pain. So that's 93% of people go to chiropractors for neck and back pain. Here's where it gets really interesting. How many of them said chiropractic services helped a great deal? Was 64%. 25% said chiropractic services helped some. 6.1% said chiropractic helped a little. And only 3.5% of people that went to chiropractors said it didn't help at all. That means 96.5% of people that go to a chiropractor, regardless of their expertise, say that it helped. Our profession is a powerful profession. I don't even think we know what we're doing with it. And yet we have the power to help change lives. And yet if 90+% of people said it helped, why did only 30% of the people who went to a chiropractor stick with it over the last year? Interesting to think about. People said that chiropractic led to a better sense of control over their health. 32% said chiropractic helped them get control of their health better. 40% said it reduced stress levels. 41% said it helped their sleep. 27% said they felt better emotionally. 38% said it was just easier to cope with their health problems. 67% said it improved their overall health and made them feel better. Look at this one. 13% said it improved their relationship with other people. How interesting is that? You guys know what that's like. How many of you know when you're subluxated, you're not as tolerant of your kids or your girlfriend or your practice or your staff members or your patients? Oh my. 13% recognize when I'm out of alignment, it disrupts my relationships with other people. 17% said it improves attendance at job or school. How many CEOs should be having their employees under chiropractic care? All of them. They don't get that because it's only for neck and back pain, remember? 17% didn't miss as much work. So I love this kind of a study, and we don't get told this in chiropractic, but what is this doing? This is a big kumbaya for our profession to say, guys, we are amazing. Our profession is powerful, and we have a value in the marketplace. And then you're going to have me as a side note go, and we got to get a lot better. What? Well, aren't people happy enough? No, only 1/4 of people even tried our profession. And 90+% of them aren't using it in the last year. So no, we've got to get a lot better with our skills and our message. Because there's 90+% of the public not seeing us. And they need to. So we are the event host. Epic does host this symposium. What does that mean? We're the ones that lose our financial butts on this thing. No, I didn't mean to say that. We're the ones investing in this. No, I remember when there's two of my friends, neat chess guys, Dr. Ray Drury and Dr. Thad Vanyo. And they put on some fantastic seminars. Thank God they did. It's where I first met Dr. Brooks. And it was the upper cervical evolution. These guys personally lost tens of thousands of dollars putting on this seminar. And they did it a second year. And then they did it a third year. Why would they do that? Is because they believe in the cause. That's why we host this too. So we put it together hoping that we're enough on the outside looking in with enough relationships that we can say, hey, who's willing to join? Who's willing to be part of the movement? It's an honor for us that all of these speakers that you're going to be hearing from this weekend came here, are on time. They're not showing up just for their segment in Bolting. They're speakers that came here to be part of the weekend. It's pretty rare. I don't know if you know that, but that is pretty rare. We're very blessed with the speakers we have coming here. But the mission statement behind Epic, because a lot of you guys know Epic, but some of you really, and don't be offended by this, some of you have no clue. What was Epic? But you guys just put a name together that everyone's using now. Now, EPIC is actually an acronym. It stands for Evolutionary Percussive Instrument Corrections. EPIC is not a technique. It is a mindset. It is a way of practicing. It's a purpose. And every purpose has a mission to it. So the mission statement behind EPIC, if you really want to know what we are, don't try to figure out the technical details of who we are. That's not who we are. That's what we do. Who we are is this. We believe in challenging the status quo in healthcare as well as in chiropractic. Forever striving to improve our quality of care. Our quality of care. We will always look for the next conceptual or technological breakthrough that will help us achieve better spinal corrections for optimal patient health. So let's break this down. We believe in challenging the status quo in healthcare as well as in chiropractic. Challenging the status quo in anything is abnormal. You understand what a status quo is. That's what everybody's comfortable with. We can't get comfortable. There is a big movement trying to not make us uncomfortable, trying to make us not exist. We can't be comfortable. We have to always stay uncomfortable. Not outside of our truth, but stretching ourselves, challenging ourselves, pushing our minds and spirits to be more. You have to be like that. Otherwise, you get stuck in a rut of life. And then 30 years from now, you're like, yeah, maybe I should just retire. Most chiropractors never retire. Most. Because why would they? What are they going to go do? I remember somebody asked my father one time, I was like, hey, you going to retire? He goes, and do what? I don't know, play golf. He's like, why would I do that? I love what I do. Dr. Roy Sweat, still seeing patients at age 93? God bless that guy. That's amazing. What an inspiration. That may seem really weird to students. I'm not picking on students, but y'all's generational mindset where your attention span is about 15 seconds and you flip website pages fast and you're, to think of doing something for 60 years, that's probably pretty hard, especially with y'all's mindset. Now, the generation before me, that's what you did. You found a job and you were in it till you hit pension and retirement. But these days, it's not quite like that. You actually need to have things that are fueling and energizing your freshness. I know one of the things, and you'll hear from Dr. David Huffman this weekend, one of the things that he talks about is it was always a party in practice. Every day was a new party. Loved practicing. You have to have that freshness. Now what fuels that, what fuels the excitement, it's not just your belief that something good's going to happen. You have to see it happen. So the more miracles you get to witness innate doing, the more excited you are to go back tomorrow. And the more cases that are given that positive story, that gives you the energy to then shift it to the cases that are still struggling and pulling through and keep being their cheerleader. You've got to have the good to let you know you're making a difference. Otherwise, you're just there. And nobody will just stay there. You'll go somewhere. Unfortunately, we lose a lot of great chiropractors out of chiropractic because they might have been intellectually smart, but they didn't have the technical ability to see the miracles. They didn't get to see those. They kept them saying, I want to see more miracles. The second part of this. Oh, by the way, it's okay when we challenge the status quo in healthcare. We all are in this room, we'd all say, hey, that's great. That's right. No drugs, no vaccines. This is not a healthcare industry, it's a sickness care industry. We punch that other side. And then I go, hey, how about challenging the status quo inside chiropractic? Well, what do you mean? What are you talking about now, Stan? I mean, we're fine because they're the MDs. We're the DCs, so we got to all stick together. I'm like, that's cool. I agree with you. Now, inside our own little family, there's things called interventions. Why do people do interventions with their family members? It's because sometimes things aren't always 100% on track. We need to be able to have interventions with one another. It's called open dialogue. And this is what most of the techniques do not allow to happen. There was one attempt by the Council on Upper Cervical Care that was designed to make the techniques talk. And they held, I think it was the third one, I know Sean Dill, Darren White, and other people, Dr. Brooks and I, we were part of putting this thing together. It was called the Upper Cervical Fusion. And it was designed to force techniques in the same place to have conversations. And it didn't work. I wish I could stand here and say, oh man, we all broke down our barriers and our walls, and we just said, teach me, let me see your perspective. But it didn't get everybody to open up. It was a great start, though, and that's something that's going to take time to let people slowly break down. So I would say at that conference, we thought it didn't work. But maybe it did. Maybe it started something that's slowly opening up dialogue. Because you know what? I know Dr. Brooks was at that seminar. A NUCA practitioner that I have high respect for. And he's here to share with us. Annie and Bulow, were you there at the Upper Cervical Fusion? First one?
No, Blair Society.
Blair Society was absolutely there. Darren was there. And there was some good talks. You were there also?
That's when I first started to do it.
Interesting. And Lacey, and Dr. Book in the back, and Sean Dill, they were there. And they're here to present. So maybe it wasn't a failure. Maybe it did start dialogue. But what you'll find is that if you were there, you would see that most of the techniques stayed segregated.
Yeah.
Not me. I went in and sat on Sean Dill talking about instrumentation. I was like, wow, this is interesting. I went in and sat on the Blair conference. I'm like, Tom Force is talking about something. It's way beyond me. But I'm going to sit here and try to pick up something. Track. Okay. Mind you, I just wanted to experience it. I remember Jeff Schulten from NUCA came in and sat in on a couple of our discussions, and he was somebody who also liked to look outside the box. So some people did, but the majority of techniques don't, and that's not fair to the students. You guys often get told, pick your technique and stick with it. And Epic will come along and say, pick a technique and learn it. And then go learn another one. And then go learn another one. Start seeing the perspectives until you figure out which one resonates with you. But don't pick too early, or you may stop looking. And you need to always be looking. Once you find principles that you adhere to and you understand, lock in with them, though. Don't be a master of all trades. A jack of all trades, master of nothing. Don't be a generalist. General doesn't inspire anybody. Find some technique that you resonate with and be amazing at it. My goal was always to learn everything I could from my father. My goal was to learn everything I could from Dr. Sweat. Then learn everything I could from my father and blow past them. Same thing with Dr. Sweat. And it was not a disrespect. I respected those guys like crazy. But I knew if I could learn what they have and then push further. That's what they did with Grostek. That's what he did with BJ. That was the mindset. Can we build upon it and keep going forward? It was not a disrespect. It was out of respect for the movement. So I always encourage you guys to be like that too. I encourage Dr. Beadle, who's one of our board members, if you can get better results than me, please do. And let me see what you're doing. Let's keep learning from each other as we go through this. And you're going to see some really interesting things this weekend. Really, really interesting things. In regards to being able to track your results and see where you are in comparison to other clinics. In regards to other practitioners. How well are you controlling cases and how well could you be? It's fascinating. We're going to show you statistical ways of actually measuring to see breakthroughs in the field that are happening all the time. Every technique has breakthroughs. How do any of us know? Dr. Mark, if you're all of a sudden working on your patients and you're getting better results than I am on something, how would we ever know? You would just be doing what you do. And I'm great, you're great, we're all great, guys. And I never learn his advancement. Because nobody knows it's happening. We all kind of say, yeah, we're all great. That guy clears people out well. Well, then why aren't you learning from him? Well, because I'm great too, didn't you know? We're missing out on so many breakthroughs happening in the field because nobody's tracking it to see it. We're going to show you a presentation. We're going to be giving at IRAPS in a couple weeks. Watch what you can do now. Watch what you can see now. Forever striving to improve our quality of care. That's why Epic exists. We're just trying to get better. There's not an ego trip in this place. If any of you ever feel like we're on an ego trip, talk to us about it first. Bring it up to us. Challenge us directly. And watch how we react. We're not going to say, screw you. We don't have an attitude. We're going to be like, hey, I'm really, really sorry you feel that way. That's not my intention. Sorry I came across that way. We don't have an attitude here. That can't exist if we're going to progress together. We have very powerful leaders with magnetic personalities who are absolute egomaniacs. And it is about them. Be really, really careful who your mentors are. Please. Because we absorb traits from each other. That's why I'm so excited Dr. Brooks is here. I want to absorb more traits from someone like that. I told him, you need to come because my group needs to experience you. They need to learn from you. What do you want me to speak on? I don't even know. Just please come share because they've got to feel you and learn from you. But we're always trying to get better. So we're going to look for concept and technology breakthroughs. Technology breakthroughs are happening all the time. Our profession is okay with that as long as it's in the area of imaging. If you start talking about technology breakthroughs on how to get better adjusting results, people glitch. Oh, if we can all see it better, well, we can all agree upon that. Okay, well then what about in this case where you had a hard time contacting the atlas because the mastoid in the ear was in the way? Dr. Bulow in the back did a Facebook video, I think it was about a month and a half ago, where he was looking at the articulations of C2 and the angle you would have to come through just to adjust C2, and it was coming up through the ear. And at the very end of it, he's like, guys, I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe we do some type of articular line of drive assessment and then some type of orthogonal adjustment. I don't know. But you heard the pureness inside his comments. The objectivity. Leaving himself vulnerable enough to actually learn and grow. And I watched that portion of that portion of your thing. I watched it several times. I was like, oh, I love Ian. I got to watch it again. I gotta watch it. Because that's what you have to expand and grow. But when it comes down to it, do you think most people practicing an articulate approach would even consider moving to an orthogonal adjusting model? I don't know. Ian's open to it. And am I saying orthogonal is the way to go? I don't know. Let's look at all of the details of how we're getting results on people. What if they actually all work to certain levels, but maybe certain approaches work better on certain cases? We have to figure that out. We can only figure that out through research and data and case evaluations. And most people are not willing to look at it. In Epic we are. Concept breakthroughs. Concept breakthroughs happen inside our profession, but they happen outside way more than inside. Because chiropractors do what we do. We do what we've been taught to do since 1930, since 1950. Grostic said to do it this way, so that's why I do it that way. Okay, well, that was 50, 60 years ago. So what have we learned since that time and has built upon that? What truths were we able to confirm from that genius of a person? And can we build on his work? A lot of concepts come from outside of our profession. CBCT didn't come from inside our profession. It came from the oral dental guys, the surgeons doing the cosmetic work. They're scanning this stuff. They see something we don't. It's a concept from outside of our profession being brought in. A technology from outside of our profession being brought in. BJ did that with X-ray. We have to have the freshness to be willing to look outside of our box. Always trying to get better spinal corrections for optimal patient health. And then, of course, we have the adoption patterns. This is one of my favorite things to even think about. You have the innovators. Then you have the early adopters. If the process keeps moving forward and your product or service is valuable enough, then it moves into the early majority, then the trend shifts, and you start to see the majority of people jumping on board. I would identify each of you in this room as part of either the innovators or early adopters. Because what we do is definitely not a majority. And yet we're all here with the same passion and focus, hoping to try to get better. So you're part of the early adopters, if not the innovators. So I commend you. That's why I'm so excited about this weekend. What do you mean I'm an early adopter? I'm only a student. Yup. What do you mean an innovator? I haven't even graduated yet. So what? Keep your brain going. There's things we can learn from you too. One of the things that happened early on in 2004, now Dr. Bo Rochester out of orthospinology had looked at digitizing x-rays back in the 90s. It didn't really get traction. Let me just put it that way. He had some good ideas. It didn't get traction though. And then in the early 2000s, John Overcash, who was an instrument, upper cervical instrument providing guy, as well as my cousin Dr. Mark Pierce in Jacksonville, they got together and spent about $70,000 and developed the first digital x-ray analysis program called OnyxRad. They took it to a certain technique leader and wanted him to promote it. He said, not unless you give it to me. And they said, we'll put a free unit in your office. And he said, no. Give it to me. The whole thing must be mine. And they're like, well, you'd have to give us the $70,000 back. Nope. So he wouldn't endorse it. They came and showed it down at our clinic, and I actually stepped away from patients. Yes, I got a little delayed, but I couldn't help it. Digital x-ray? So I was like, all right, okay, I'm just a little bit late. I'm coming. I'll be right there. Okay, go ahead and show me. And I couldn't leave the room. And I was like, wow, show me. Wow, this is great. You guys have done something amazing. And I remember John Overcash looking at me and going, well, what would it take to get your endorsement for this? I go, didn't I just give it to you? And he goes, no, really. Like, what do we have to pay you? What do we have to do? I go, you already did it. Look what you made. I was one of his early adopters. He started crying. He thought that's all. He goes, that's all it is with you, huh? I go, you already did it. Let's get it. I go, there's some issues with it. I need to help you fix them, but let's get it going. Then it became OpalRad. And our clinic became the first clinic to have the digital x-ray analysis. Our technique became the first digital technique. And then other groups started to adopt it. In fact, it was interesting because at the meeting, one of the people there was my cousin. And I looked at him after I saw the program. I go, do you already have this in your clinic? And he goes, no, not yet. I go, why not? He goes, there's just something about being the first. I go, you're right. We'll put our order in right now. He goes, what? I go, there's something about being the first. Dr. Royce White came out with something, an aberrancy template back in 1981. It was designed to look at the shape of the skull for asymmetry. It never really took traction, but it was an interesting idea. My father took it and started looking at it from a different perspective. He said, well, how does the skull compare to the condyles? A different innovation. Epic took that innovation and just kept building on it. So today, we now look at 25 different genetic anomalies per person. Now, who's been talking anomalies forever? Well, Blair's been talking about anomalies for decades. So who's the innovator? Maybe they started the innovation. Maybe we came along and supported a concept and tried to implement it and infuse it into orthogonal work. Now maybe we're all innovating. Or maybe we're early adopting. I don't know. But we're moving in the same direction. Therein is the beauty. Because it's not about who's right. It's all about us moving in the right direction. This weekend, there's another seminar being held right now in a different state. It's an upper cervical conference, and in the agenda you'll see they have two segments. One says they're going to look at malformations altering the adjusting protocol and selection of identical structures. These are two genetic considerations. I've never heard this other group even talk about this. And I see it in the agenda. I'm like, rock on. That's great. We're all going the same direction. One of the things that you'll start to learn about with an innovation is that Epic designed new technology for adjusting. Because we have to. It's got to keep innovating. One of the details of that technology is using laser-guided alignment of the patient and how to calibrate the instrument based upon assessments. And then another group comes along and says, hey, guess what we all of a sudden did? A year later, another group says, we've designed a laser thing you stick on your instrument. Doing the exact same thing we talked about a year prior. I'm like, hey, taking the ideas and trying to implement them, okay, we're moving the same direction. One of the things that you guys are going to get to hear about this weekend, innovations, Sonus Blueprint, and Integrity Genesis. These are massive innovations. Some of you are part of the early adopters. There's people in this room who are already on board with these things. They saw them. They saw the intellect of what's behind them, the intention, but the technical excellence of it. And they immediately said, I'm adopting that. Is it fully proven out? Do we have thousands of these things all over the country? No, because we're not in that stage of the cycle yet. Then here's always the fun one. Articular versus orthogonal. Articular is looking at C1 compared to occiput and C2. Orthogonal is not even looking at atlas compared to condyles. It's looking at atlas compared to a line through the center of the parietal bones. Grostic came along and looked global rather than segmental. Which is better? I'm not saying one is better. Which one's right? Who's to say? Maybe they're both right. But what came along is you have the articular guys saying subluxation is one vertebrae out of place with the one above or below, creating interference with the spine. The Grostic people came along and said atlas compared to the center of gravity of the skull, compared to the center of gravity of the neck. Unrotated, 4 multi-directional misalignments. Let's fix them all. The articular guy's saying, but that's not subluxation by definition. Subluxation by definition is bone out of place with the one above or below. You're looking at atlas compared to the skull, way up high in the parietal bones. They started butting heads. And you saw the war get bigger. Because then the orthogonal guys said, yeah, well, we can post x-ray and see measurable change. You guys don't even post x-ray. These guys would say, but you're not measuring with instrumentation an objective nerve indicators of whether you're in or out of alignment. Where's your objective nerve findings? And just back and forth. Who's right? Who's wrong? Maybe they're both right. And in Epic, that's what we do. We see what's right and pull it together. Now, when I say we see what's right, well, what's resonating with us, what's resonating with our intellectual mind, sure. But we try to take good from all groups and see what we can keep unifying. I remember talking to Sean Dill, a good friend of mine that you'll get to hear from, and I was talking with him about what if it's possible to create the upper cervical technique. And I go, would you be willing to do that? What would you think about that? He goes, that'd be awesome. He goes, it'll never happen, but that'd be awesome. And I was like, well, what if? Why can't we just keep talking and see how much we can shove it together? That's what the upper cervical diplomate program that came out. We have a diplomate in the room, Dr. Bulow. And he went through the program learning. It's a hard program. And he went through the program trying to see the perspectives of each group. And how could that be pulled together? That's why we get along so well. One of my favorite analogies that ever got used, I hope I'm not stealing it from your presentation, but it's from Bob Brooks. When he said this, I absolutely loved it. I don't remember the first time I heard you say it, but truth is like inside of a box. Inside this box is truth. And we all have these little holes that are poked in the box. And we're all looking through a hole at truth, but we're looking from different perspectives. And that really resonated with me because I was like, who am I to say my way is right? Because he's getting results, and so is she, and so is she. So why don't we just keep looking at it and see where we go? So as a result, in challenging the status quo, we invite a veteran icon in the upper cervical community from NUCA to come speak at our Epic conference. And we invite the heads of a knee chest technique called TATS to come speak at our conference. We invite a lead instructor from the Blair technique, who's also an upper cervical diplomate, to come speak at our conference. We have a social media phenom. We have a guy coming to speak to you tomorrow night who posted a video called Chiropractic Quackery. He's coming to challenge us tomorrow night. By the way, he's not against Epic or upper cervical. But you will not want to miss him. 2 million YouTube followers, 1.5 million Twitter followers. He's going to come here and he's going to challenge and stretch your comfort zone. And it'll be good for you.
He's a patient.
He's a patient of ours too.
Throw that up for...
Yeah, he's a patient under Atlas Care.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to violate HIPAA by saying that.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding.
You're all doctors.
Well done. Well done. We have we're going to be showing you innovative upper cervical research being presented at IRAPS. We're going to show you breakthroughs in advanced analysis. We're going to show you very disruptive upgrade in adjusting instrument technology. We're going to have a man whose inspirational life story is being filmed in Hollywood. He has a documentary film being done on him right now. He's coming here. That guy only joined our movement 2.5 weeks ago. Became a patient, violated HIPAA again, did awesome, and literally said to me, "Doc, do you happen to know any opportunities where I could come share?" And I go, "Are you kidding me?" And the timing was amazing, and the spirit was perfect, and I thought, I'm supposed to squeeze him in for you guys. And the more I heard from him, just little things, I was like, this guy's going to blow us away. And it was a complete gift that this was placed before all of us to learn from. And so much more than that. We have patients of ours that have wanted to come be part of this conference with you. In the back, we have a massage therapist named Dawn Murphy. She's a big fan of Atlas Care. She's here just to offer. Some of you guys had travel stresses and you got kinked up on the plane and stuff, and you're like, "Oh, I'm so jacked up." And you guys just want to have somebody just do some muscular loving for a little bit. Head to the back of the room and let her take care of you. She literally is here just to kind of ease you guys into the conference. Because some of you guys may come in with a little stress and just want to drop that before you get into the learning process. Some of you already took advantage of it. She's only here for today, just to try to help you guys into the conference. But she wanted to be here. Do you understand? She wanted to be here for this. I'm going to tell you guys something very transparent that I probably shouldn't. None of the speakers are being paid to be here this weekend.
What?
None of them. By the way, we removed you from the lineup. I'm sorry. They all came here on their own accord to be part of this. So you need to show your gratitude to them for the time they're taking out of their busy lives. I mean, these guys are not, it's not that they're sitting around waiting for somebody to give them a call. These are movers and shakers that are coming here to be part of this. And we are so honored with the people that are going to be lecturing and presenting this weekend. Unity does not mean sameness. It means oneness of purpose. I hope that you feel that family mentality that Dr. Kelsey was talking about. I hope you feel that unity. We do not have to be the same to be unified. If we were all the same, how boring would that be anyway? We want to be different and challenge each other. But what if in our differences we start to find points of agreement that actually make us more and more on the same page, more unified? Boy, wouldn't that be beautiful? But great things never ever come from comfort zones, so drop your comfort zones this weekend. When you hear stuff that you go, "Ooh, man, I don't know if I agree with that," open up. I'm not telling you to agree with it. I'm saying open up. Drop your walls.